I call to order the meeting of the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District Board of Managers on November 7, 2024. Let me first take roll call. Audible, Manager Maxwell.
Aye.
Manager
Here.
Olson.
Present.
Manager Loftus.
Here.
Manager Sando.
Here.
Manager Miller.
Here.
Manager Hajmadi.
Here.
Thank you. And White here. We are all here. I don't see members of the public, so let us move to item 3, approval of the agenda, and note that I will take up items 13 and 14 before 12. But with that change, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and second. Voting on the agenda, Manager Hajmadi. Manager Miller.
Aye.
Manager Sando.
Aye.
Manager Loftus.
Aye.
Manager Olson.
Aye.
Manager Maxwell.
Aye.
Manager Hajmadi.
Aye.
Thank you, and Manager White, aye as well. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for the financial report, which is in the information items. And then moving to the consent agenda, we have a, yes?
The reason that we get the report is to keep informed, and the presumption is that the treasurer reads it. Do you want to move approval of accepting it?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
Good.
All right, then
And I
voting
thank Deb for always
To
putting
ex-
effort into it.
accept the report. Manager Maxwell.
Aye.
Manager Olson.
Aye.
Manager Loftus.
Aye.
Manager Sando.
Aye.
Manager Miller.
Aye.
Manager Hajmadi.
Aye.
And Manager White, aye. On the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes of the October 24th meeting and 3 resolutions. 24057 authorizes a second memorandum of understanding with the City of Victoria. 24058 is the selection of a vendor and authorization to execute a contract for audit services. And 24059 is approval of the 2025 committee and board meeting calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Manager Maxwell, is there a second? Manager Olson. Voting on the consent agenda, Manager Maxwell.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Loftus.
Aye.
Sando.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Hajmadi.
Aye.
White, aye. I do have a little bit of a report this evening. Since the last meeting, Mr. Whisker and I did meet with Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Lundy. We were able to ask them about their priorities, and they mentioned light rail and jobs and housing, as well as other issues. And we were able to update them on some of the work we're doing, Minneapolis 325 Lake Road climate. Next week we have meetings with 3 commissioners, Gotel, Conley, and Edelson, and so that would mean we just need to schedule Green to have made the full round. And those were very positive meetings, and we were happy we had them. I wanted to raise something about the December meeting. We'd scheduled it for the Tuesday of that week, which is the 3rd, but since that time, my schedule freed up on the 2nd, and Maud added that legislative event, lobbyist event, on the evening of Tuesday. So I wanted to sound people out about changing that meeting to Monday. It would be December 2nd instead of the 3rd.
That would work better for me, actually.
Okay. All right, we could do it by motion. Is there a motion then to,
So moved.
thank you, is there a second?
Second.
All right, to move it from the 3rd to the 2nd. Okay, voting on that, Manager Hajmadi,
Aye.
Manager Miller,
Aye.
Manager Sando,
Aye.
Manager Loftus,
Aye.
Manager Maxwell,
Aye.
Manager Olson,
Aye.
Manager White, aye. I just realized that Ms. Johnson's going to check on hotel availability for Tuesday night. Let's see what we can do. The upcoming meeting and event schedule is in the agenda. The November 13th CAC will be Manager Sando, and then we have committee and board meeting on the 21st, and we've just changed that to December 2nd. Is there a, no, I'm sorry. And then we get to run right down to item 11.1, Resolution 24060, Mr. Heyman presenting on terminating a contract.
There we go. All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, managers. Staff is before you this evening seeking authorization to terminate the construction contract for the 2023-2024 Twin Lake Park Pond and Nokomis Amelia Pond dredging with Minnesota Dirt Works. Before I start, actually, both items on the agenda this evening, both action items, I want to thank Rachel Baker and Gabe Sherman for developing all the board packet materials while I was away and helping as we continue to sort of take an all-hands approach to PMLM. Both items were PMLM items, and the project planning team stepped in to help with that. This is really just a sort of final formality in what's been continued dialogue as we've been moving this direction, working with Minnesota Dirt Works throughout the year following those unseasonable conditions in 2024 when we were first trying to dredge these two ponds. Just to remind the board, regrounding the location of the facilities, the Twin Lakes Park Pond and the Amelia Pond are located where the red dots are on the map. Excuse me, and both were contracted for maintenance at the end of 2023 and were anticipated to be dredged between January and March of 2024. You can just see a little bit of the sediment accumulation in the Twin Lakes Park Pond as it relates to the anticipated as-built drawing, and we were aiming to dredge both Twin Lake and Amelia as both had approached that 50% sediment threshold, which is sort of standard practice for removal. Amelia similarly. You can see where the sediment accumulates most readily in the Amelia Pond. I should have noted the dark red color is the greatest depth, up to 3.5 feet in both Twin Lake and Amelia. And both we are going to continue to explore options for continued maintenance. Just to work through a little bit of the, excuse me, the background on the project, we had completed our pond surveys in 2022, issued an RFP for design and engineering in 2023 for Twin Lake and Amelia, as those were the two that were identified for dredging in 2023-2024. Stantec completed that design effort in mid-2024, and we did finalize and solicit bids then, selecting Minnesota Dirt Works towards the end of 2023. We issued that notice to proceed. They did mobilize to Amelia Pond and have been compensated for that, for the minor work that they did have to complete before recognizing that there weren't going to be seasonable conditions favorable for actually dredging. So they did back out of the system in February, shortly after they had noted that they would no longer be able to dredge if we didn't receive more depth of frost or more frozen conditions. There was the discovery of a threatened and endangered species at Amelia Pond, so the Blandings turtle was identified through their dewatering permit process with the DNR. It was sort of a late find through an NHIS layer, and they were notified after they'd already realized they likely wouldn't be finishing dredging. So that's been why we've waited throughout the year to formally terminate, because we were in conversations with Minnesota Dirt Works to potentially change order the contract, move Twin Lake forward to this winter, and just cancel Amelia while we work through the endangered species conversations with the DNR. In October, Minnesota Dirt Works notified the district that they weren't interested, that they were overextended for the winter, and they had had a lot of pond projects the previous year that didn't come to fruition, and they weren't looking to take on any more risk through the winter. So, excuse me, we've confirmed with them that all of their payment is complete, and they're not expecting anything else from the district. Stantec, as the engineer, has confirmed we've received all elements necessary for termination of the contract and for our records. And so is that we're looking to terminate this evening with the board. I will note we will be looking to, hopefully, when we have PMLM manager on in early 2025, talk about bringing Twin Lake forward and in consideration of some of the other pond projects that have been identified for potentially 25 or 26, which included Long Lake North Pond, Gleason South Pond, and potentially Steiger Lake Pond. I believe in the last PMLM presentation, there were thoughts that depending on how these two ponds queued up, now that they've missed a year, they may push all of those pond projects forward. But we'll have those conversations with our design team and the PMLM manager once they're on board, and we'll be able to advance whichever pond projects seem to be ready for next year's survey and design process. And so with that, as I noted, Minnesota Dirt Works has affirmed they have no further claim for payment, and under the general conditions, 1503 of our contract, nothing is outstanding. Our engineer has also advised that the site is conforming and there are no required contract closeout submittals. So we are recommending 24060, which is termination of the contract with Minnesota Dirt Works.
Thank you, Mr. Heyman. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Manager Sando moves. Is there a second?
Second?
Manager Loftus seconds. Any questions for Mr. Heyman? Manager Olson?
Have we spent any money with Dirtworks?
Yeah, Manager Olson, managers, they had a total payment of about $16,500. I want to say it was right in that range. It was approved at the board probably within the September check run. It was for mobilization. They did install construction entrances. They did do cattail mowing. This image is actually of some of their equipment on the site for the few days they were there, as well as permitting and some other project management. So that was all routed through Stantec and approved as part of their bid. They had completed some level of work. Signage was another element.
Thank you.
And you said Stantec was comfortable, but Mr. Smith, are you comfortable with the termination of the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
How much work did they have to do to make the site conform? Was it taking gravel out?
Yeah, Chair White and managers, it was to remove the construction entrance, remove all the signage that they had in place, and of course remove any equipment, and just ensure that none of the vegetation or the trail, because Amelia had specific trail requirements for where the construction crossing occurred, make sure the trail wasn't damaged.
Okay. Manager Miller?
What happens with global warming and we don't have freezing in the winter? We got another approach to doing pond work, as our engineer is taking us.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Manager Miller, and managers, that's something we've talked about, as well as because some of the requirements when the DNR had indicated the threatened and endangered species, some of their dewatering requirements or non-dredging seasons do occur over winter. There are other methods for dredging to occur. They're typically more expensive, so we'd have to just explore other seasons and other methods for that work. The reason we didn't approach this particular contract and change order and actually try to dredge Amelia during the summer season is in Minnesota, and in particular, the change order required because of the seasonality was such that we would just exceed the percent contract. That would make sense. Instead, we would need to just modify the means and methods for that actual dredging and then rebid it. Because in Minnesota, obviously, the challenge for us in doing spring and summer maintenance is their stormwater facilities, and that's the season in which they're receiving a lot of water. So dewatering and preventing those from receiving flows becomes rather challenging.
Thank you. Mr. Meehan?
Right, Manager Miller, what they could do is like what we just saw with the permit that came before you, like, they could do like hydraulic dredging, but they just go in, they would actually use those cutter type systems and pull it, just do the dewatering. But again, it is more expensive than this traditional well.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, then, voting on the resolution, Manager Maxwell?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Loftus?
Aye.
Sando?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Hajmati?
Aye.
And White votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Heyman. And the next item, 2461, tree removals. Mr. Heyman?
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair, managers. Before you this evening, seeking authorization to award a contract to Precision Landscape and Tree for the removal of downed trees at the Minnehaha Preserve. It's a relatively straightforward item in terms of addressing these downed trees, which are identified in the Joint Operations and Maintenance Plan with the City of St. Louis Park as district responsibility. Just to give you a little bit of perspective on where these trees exist, the first one that we call Cottonwood 1 is running across the creek, essentially north-south, at the northernmost portion of the Minnehaha Preserve, so right near that freight rail line. And the second one, actually, if you look close enough in the image, the aerials already have picked up that tree. It's a massive cottonwood tree that tipped across the entire creek, but also tore up a large portion of the bituminous trail. Both trees do pose, obviously, navigational and safety risks within the stream, and then there is some restored channel maybe restored channel work that we need to perform once we remove the trees. I have a few other images of the site just to show the one that's moving across the north-south, what we call the double trunk cottonwood. It's fallen across the entirety of the creek. This is actually recent photos from last week. When we were first notified about it, the creek was much higher, and so most of that was buried, or there was just the tree debris sticking out of the channel itself. The other is the large cottonwood here that has gone across the entire span of Minnehaha Creek, and this is part of the restored channel on the easternmost portion of the project, and you can see the level of impact it had on the trail there when it did tip over in those storms. The bottom right photo is from last week, so the creek has dropped substantially, and it should be a lot easier for them to access now for removal. As you likely noted realized in the photos, it's pretty extreme in terms of the damage that's been done, not just to the creek, but also to the trail. I do want to note, though, how helpful St. Louis Park has been with removals, both previously and through this process. So up until now, for the past decade, St. Louis Park has managed all of the tree removal at the Minnehaha Preserve. This just happened to be tree sizes that they don't have the equipment and staff to actually manage, or they would, and had noted that they would in fact try to help in removing these. So instead, when they notified us of the trees being down, they coned off the area, we met out on site, and then they offered to actually run the quote solicitation process on behalf of the district through their certified arborists that they use for a lot of their tree and boulevard removals. Excuse me, they did solicit quotes from 3 contractors. They received two. One declined due to the nature of the removal, and they didn't think that they could actually handle it. And then one suggested actually bringing in a crane, and it would need to access from quite a distance away, so it was almost double the price of what we received from Precision, who had suggested cutting the tree in place and hauling it out by segments. Originally, they did indicate they would do that using the bridge, the pedestrian bridge. So we had the city engineer review the loading capacity of the bridge, and they felt that that was too uncertain, just given the size of the tree and the segments that they would be cutting. They didn't feel comfortable with the 12,000 pound capacity. So they've allowed Precision to actually use the bituminous trail and bring it up to the new bridge crossing at Louisiana Avenue. The city has authorized the use of that portion of the trail and has indicated they will be out on site for all the cutting and hauling, do the oversight on behalf of the district. And so they will do that once we actually authorize the quote, and it may work easiest where you'll see how the resolution was written. We may contract directly with Precision, or we'll reimburse the city of St. Louis Park for their contract with Precision. Once the work is complete, the city will repair the trail. We're guessing that's going to be earlier next year, just given the time of year that we're approaching with winter. But we are going to coordinate that closely with the city, so if there is any bank stabilization that needs to be done, we can do that at the same time.
Great.
So with that, staff is requesting authorization to award the contract for the tree removal at the Minnehaha Preserve.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt?
Move approval.
Manager Miller, will you second, Manager Olson?
Second.
Manager Miller, you have a question?
There's a lot of trees down on the creek. Some as big as this. What are we doing about that? I noted that on 44th Street in the creek, by the bridge, there's a huge tree went down, and they had to have a crane like half a block away to close off the streets and everything. It was a big deal. Who did that? The homeowner or the city?
Yeah, Manager Miller, Chair White, managers. I'm not sure which tree. There was one not far from 325 Blake Road that had fallen down. Actually, the residents were here to speak in favor of the new trail connection project, Sullivan's, where they had to have a crane pull the tree out over their house, and that was a resident responsibility. So along the creek on private property, trees down in the creek are the responsibility of the landowner. That was one, though, where there was an approach where they could have cut it and placed it on the property that we would like to bring the trail through. And so the district and City of St. Louis Park offered to cost share, so the removal would all be efficient and it would bring it out of that future project site. But in the instance of the tree you're talking about, I'm not sure if the city would have assisted in that. In some instances, the cities do assist landowners with it. In others, it's just a private resident issue.
Because who's responsible for deciding? I mean, there's trees all over the place on Chewy, Diana, and South Minnetonka.
Yeah, Chair White, Manager Miller, managers. We typically do defer when we get calls on downed trees. We typically refer them to the municipality, And then they'll either work with the landowner or explain, you know, what is the method that that particular city uses, so.
Anything else?
But we don't have, do we have a regular system of inspecting and making the determination? Or-
We don't down the entire creek corridor, but we do have both on our website and then through phone calls, people can report obstructions or down trees, and then we can send that information out to the local.
Recognize Mr. Whisker and then Manager Sando.
Thank you, President White. And managers, in response to Manager Miller's question, I just note that without project maintenance staff this year, even on our own property, we've observed a lot of tree issues with downed trees. I think the 2 years of drought and then really wet weather and some windstorms, we've seen a lot of trees come down. Tremendous coordination costs on those is what I'm observing, because if they're near a property line, you know, you're wanting to make sure that you're being really respectful of property rights. Sometimes the neighbors want us to take a tree down and it's right on the line and it's on their property. We've seen trees come down on unplatted property near Grays Bay Dam that, you know, the landowner is talking to the county, they're talking to the city of Minnetonka, they're talking to us. Also took a call today from Minnetrista Public Works. Our County Road 110 property, which is over on Dutch Lake, has a large stand of ash tree. They've all been infected with emerald ash borer and are dead. I think one of the things that I'm starting to flag is we probably need, and then up and down the creek, as you mentioned, there's differential approaches by cities as to what they will and won't do. I mean, general rule of thumb, if it's on private property, they're not going to touch it. But even ones in parkland that are obstructions for paddlers don't always get prompt attention, and there isn't steady budget in city forestry departments to deal with those. Minneapolis is the same way. So I guess I would just flag that we are thinking about that. And I think in the project maintenance program, we should probably have a clear framework for what our approach is on different lands for how we're dealing with things like emerald ash borer, and if we're taking those down only when they're a safety issue, or if we're clearing them all out, or if we're doing it proactively. There's a lot of city forestry policies on things like that. I've spoken with Treasurer Loftus about there's a kind of an operational impediment right now with the spending limitations delegated down to the administrator of $5,000. Some of these trees are 10, 12 grand to get them down and removed. And we talked about maybe developing a contract pool with pre-vetted forestry services so that we could be a little bit more efficient and nimble in managing some of our lands. That might be the same thing for the creek too. I could see maybe in the future getting communities together and developing a more unified approach. That doesn't mean it's our responsibility to maintain navigability up and down the creek, but certainly dealing with it on a one-off basis this year, there's a lot of friction in it. And I really appreciate Mike and his team handling this one with the city of St. Louis Park. But we're seeing the same thing and thinking about it.
There are law
So,
review
Are we
articles.
gonna do something or not?
Yes.
Okay.
I was gonna say there are law review articles written about trees on property lines and who's responsible. So it's good to have partners you can negotiate with and count on, like St. Louis Park.
Is that one of the trees that you talked about?
That, yes, Manager Olson, that's the tree, the large cottonwood at location 2, and that's Mike Baugh, who's the natural resources manager for the city of St. Louis Park when we were out there on site.
Could we
For
put a
scale.
bituminous trail over that and declare it a bridge?
Yeah.
Big enough, it's huge.
And it's great to hear that you're partnering so nicely with the city. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And, you know, it really is in their wheelhouse to do a lot of tree work. Like over the winters, they'll have a lot of their roads and different infrastructure crews work in parks and trees, but that doesn't mean they can do specialty work, like really high up or over structures. So a lot of this type of kind of more extreme work has to be contracted out. But it's great that they're helping guide us what their typical process would be, because they deal with it so often. So I appreciate you working with them.
Absolutely, and they, you know, in talking with Mike, they've had endless road and boulevard tree removals, mainly because of those 2 August storms.
Yeah.
And that's when this tree, or all of these trees came down as well. They've been keeping tree contractors in business throughout the summer, so.
And then finding contractors who are available is,
Yeah.
you know, we're into November, it was in August, so
Mhm.
it takes
Time.
a few months. Thank you.
Anything else before we vote? Manager Maxwell?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Loftus?
Aye.
Sando?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Hejmati?
Aye.
And White votes aye. I can't see Manager Hejmati. Does someone else know if he's raising a hand or?
You just said.
No, I'm not raising my
He's
hand.
not.
Oh, I know, oh, there he is. Okay, I see. All right, thank you. Then we will move to item 13, which is, are there any board inquiries, issues, or ideas to be brought forth this evening? We'll go then to staff reports. Mr. Whisker.
Thank you, President White, managers. Grays Bay Dam was winterized today, so since we're giving shout outs to our Public Works crews at City's Minnetonka Public Works, we were supposed to meet out there at 9. They got out there about 45 minutes early and got done 5 minutes after 9. So just really seamless operation, and everything's taken care of. The stop logs are in and the dam's raised up. So I think the lake's sitting at 928.58, so right where it's supposed to be. I'd given updates at the last several meetings about the status of the Minnehaha Preserve Boardwalk, continuing to give updates tonight. We did get a letter submitted yesterday from JTS, which is the contractor, their attorney, essentially a letter and a plan expressing their intent to complete the field test plan, which is really the next junction point. And things had stalled out for a while there, so we're going to be working through that with them hopefully in the next several weeks. Some inquiries from Saunders Lake residents made their way to the city of Minnetrista, and Mayor Whalen and their administrator reached out for some information from us. They're concerned about excessive plant growth. We provide some base information about how high the water quality is in Saunders Lake, its history as essentially a deep water marsh. It wants to be a wetland. I don't think there's been a tremendous amount of boat traffic out there in recent years from what we understand, and there's been drought that's lowered the water level. So we put together a package of information. City manager and the mayor are interested in meeting to talk that through and how they relay that to residents, so we'll keep you apprised of that. Other kind of resident inquiries that pipelined their way up. There's been a long-standing eroded channel slash ravine on the southwest corner of Christmas Lake. It's in Carver County in Chanhassen. This is something that the landowners, Christmas Acres Homeowners Association has tried to tackle a number of times on their own. There's been some property disputes with an easement because of where this channel sits. Back in 2013, I think they worked with Wenck, and the city worked with Wenck to produce a design that the landowners couldn't implement because of land rights issues. It's gone through sort of several different design iterations. They reached out recently. It's still a live issue. They still haven't been able to solve it. They contacted Manager Olson. We've got a meeting with them, or I have a meeting with them, but I believe you're on site tomorrow to talk through all the different design iterations and see if there is anything that we can actually do to help them get it implemented. At one point in time, it was in the Chanhassen's capital improvement plan, and they dedicated some dollars to it. They didn't secure the grant match, but I think the critical issue revolves around the land rights that they need to implement. So I'm going to learn more tomorrow, and just wanted to let the board know, that that's something that's out there in the community. It's been discussed for a while, and they've reached back out looking for help. That's what I have for the administrator's report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Heyman, item 12.1.
Before we move on, the other day I drove across 101 from 394 to Minnetonka Boulevard, and that improvement we made on that causeway, that was kind of controversial because we spent a lot. It looks beautiful.
Yes, it does.
It is really, really well done.
It's my favorite stretch of road.
I felt so good that I even called former manager Cassell, told him that he was real pleased that he got credit for it because he bothered everybody so long for doing it that it really shows up. I mean, it looks like we care and the county cares. The rest of the road is just gorgeous.
You see the properties that we have an easement on are for sale, in case you're in the market.
I didn't see that, yep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good evening, Madam Chair, managers. We are before you this evening to continue discussions surrounding the negotiation of the developable properties at 325 Blake Road, and as such would recommend that the board advance into closed session. If it so chooses, I know that Lewis Smith can lead the board in that process.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into closed
So
session?
moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Manager Miller?
I don't want to talk anymore about it.
This is the wearing down. part.
Voting on going into closed session, Manager Maxwell?
Aye.
Olson?
No,
No? What?
Would you wish to reconsider?
no.
Manager Loftus?
Aye.
Sando?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Hitchmati?
Aye.
And White says aye. We're in closed session. May I have a motion to go back into open session?
So moved.
Manager Sando moved. May I second? Manager Maxwell. Voting on open session, Manager Maxwell?
Aye.
Olson?
No.
Loftus?
Aye.
Sando?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Hitchmati?
Can you call my name?
Yep.
Yeah,
Aye.
thank you, and I'll vote aye. We are in open session. We are adjourned.